For eyelets, look for them in your buttonhole menu. They will start at 61, and there's one more at 62. So let's start at 61. You'll notice that it is kind of just a single line of stitches. It starts right where it shows the little purple dot. It goes all the way around and then comes back with some locking stitches and then stops at the end. Now let me show you what you can do with an eyelet and what an eyelet is actually used for. So super easy. Well, this would be a great place that if you cut that open, it is going to be secured, maybe a little fray check after you do cut it open, but something that needs to hook through, or like a string or a curtain ring that could actually go through an eyelet just fine. But look at your screen here. If you were to make that longer, you will notice you will get more of an oval. Now it is set up for the widest stitch width. So again, if you wanted it to be narrower, you could come in and do a little narrow. Should we do one that size? I know it's pretty manipulated, but it stitches all the way around whatever shape that you actually have here. And I do have a piece of tearaway stabilizer underneath my fabric. You really do need to stabilize these stitches, oh fun, so they don't crinkle your fabric, either some interfacing on the back with some tearaway depending on what you're working with. But these are pretty heavy, and so that way you do want to give them something to stitch onto. Otherwise they might not come all the way together. And if you ever get an eyelet that as it sews, you almost get it to come back partially, is you can use the function of the balance to tweak it. So like if you actually get, when you sew your first one, something that looks like that, then you can actually go in and let the machine change it back to the way it needs to actually correct itself with. That's the balance function. Now let's try the straight stitch eyelet. Stitch number 62 is a straight stitch eyelet. So as it stitches, it will just do kind of like a triple stitch all the way around, lock it at the end, and then, here I'll just pull it out, oh, like a circle. So I have used these as bubbles, as accents. The other thing too, of course, if we want smaller ones, you can just make the screen. If you want ovals, you want smaller circles, and then once you stitch it, you're going to get exactly what you see here. But this is another way to, if you've ever basted a quilt or tied a quilt, you could use either the regular zigzag eyelets or the straight stitch eyelets in place of tying a quilt, because all you do is go whoop, and then you move over to the next square and then go ahead and stitch there and stitch. And before you know it, you're done. And that would be a great way to secure all those layers, like in the middle of squares or something. So your eyelets are great. When you're stitching out your buttonholes, don't forget, stitch out your eyelets, stitch number 61 and 62.